Hi everyone, and welcome to lesson 2 of IELTS Essay Builder. So on Monday we looked at how to build the first block of our essay, which is the introduction, and today we're going to learn how to build our main body paragraphs. So let's just recap some of the things that we've been doing this week. So already on Monday and Tuesday we looked at how to write an introduction, and you got feedback yesterday. It's not too late to go back and have a look at that. In fact, I would really recommend that you do that, because a lot of the things that we teach you today connect back to the introduction. It's very, very difficult to write a main body paragraph or write a conclusion without knowing how to write an introduction. So it's really important that you go back and take a look at that. Today we're going to look at how to write main body paragraphs, and then tomorrow I'm going to give you feedback on your work that I'll set you today. On Friday, we're going to finish off with conclusions. So many of you don't really focus on conclusions. Many of you don't think that they're important. It's extremely important to finish your essay off in a good way. There's no point in writing a great introduction and a great main body paragraph, putting all that effort in, and then letting yourself down when you're writing your conclusion. So let's have a look at that on Friday. And then Friday at 5 p.m. I'll give you global feedback on your conclusions. And then at the end of the week, if you want to take things to the next level, if you want to work with me further, you can. But let's talk about that at the end of the week. So what are we going to look at today? We're going to look at how to use our introduction as the foundation for the rest of your essay. So it's as I said on Monday, the introduction serves as kind of like a mini plan for you. And so we're going to talk about that and how you can use your introduction to start writing your main body paragraphs. And then we're going to get into main body paragraphs. We're going to look at the essential elements. We're going to look at topic sentences, explanations, examples. We're going to look at how you write these, show you examples of how to write these, and then we're going to finish off with our homework task. So just a reminder, guys, we're focusing on just one type of task 2 essay. Please just remember this. You can't just look at all of the stuff that we've done this week and then hope that you're lucky on test day and that you'll get a double question. It doesn't work like that. Also, as I already said, the double questions, a lot of the stuff does translate to these other types of questions, but I would look into these. You have to study these properly. Many of you have been emailing me and messaging me and saying, can you just give us some quick tips or quick structures for the other types of essay? That's kind of like saying, at the end of your driving test, can you give me some quick tips on how to ride a motorbike or how to fly a plane or how to drive a train? Quick tips and shortcuts don't work. You need to go into things on a very, very deep level, which is what we're doing with double questions this week. And many of you have already been asking about how you join my VIP course. This is currently closed, guys. We're the only course in the world that has a long, long waiting list, and we only work with people who we think we can help, and we're very selective about the people who we allow to join. This will only be available at the end of the week. Let's focus on this free course first. What I want to do is give 15,000 of you a great experience for free and help you as much as I can for free during this week. If I'm constantly answering questions because I'm getting huge number of emails, and when we're doing the feedback, a huge amount of people asking about the VIP course, that means that I can't focus on helping people for free. So let's focus on this free course first, and then on Friday or Saturday we can talk about that. And also, guys, you're being observed. As I've said, we only work with a very small number of students. That's why we have more successful students than anybody else. And we are looking at your work, and we're looking more at your attitude. If you have a great attitude, you are positive, you're welcoming the feedback that we're giving you, and you're really keen to work hard and improve your life, then we want to work with you. If you're not doing those things, maybe not. Maybe you'd be better with another teacher. Okay, so let's remind ourselves about the 4-paragraph structure for double questions. Introduction, which you've already done. then our first main body paragraph, which is going to answer the first question, then our second main body paragraph, which is going to answer our second question, and then our conclusion. So let's review lesson 1 a little bit. Let's look at the introduction and the question that we wrote, because this is very, very important that we understand how we use the introduction to then write our main body paragraph. So this was the question that we were using. Nowadays, more tasks at home and work are being performed by robots. Why do you think this is happening? Is it a positive or negative development? So the introduction that I showed you was robotics increasingly play a role both in the home and the workplace. This is due to advancements in technology, and it should be seen as a positive development because it reduces a person's workload. So this is the question that we're going to use today, and this is the introduction that we're going to use today, and we're going to use this introduction as like a mini plan that's going to help us write our main body paragraphs. So how does that work? So if we break it down, the bit in red here is our paraphrase, and then the two bits here, these are our two main ideas. So this is going to be paragraph number 1, main body paragraph number 1, due to advancements in technology. And then paragraph number 2 is going to be about this one. So as you can see, our main body 1 is going to be our first main idea. This is occurring because of advancements in technology, and main body 2 is going to be about this idea, and it should be seen as a positive development because it reduces a person's workload. So this acts as both a help to the reader, because the reader knows exactly what is coming up in the main body. They know exactly what this essay is about. You've introduced them to these topics, and then you're going to take these ideas and you're going to develop them in your main body. Okay, so let's look at what is a main body paragraph, because it became very clear during Monday's lesson that many of you didn't really understand what an introduction was and what it was supposed to be. Many of you have huge misconceptions about the test, especially the writing test. So much of this course is really just removing those misconceptions and teaching you exactly what you're supposed to be doing and the principles, the fundamentals of what you're supposed to be doing. So this is the most important part of your essay. Think of it as the meat in the hamburger. Imagine getting a hamburger and going into McDonald's and getting a hamburger and only the bread or the bun comes out. You wouldn't be very happy. That actually happened to me in Vietnam, in McDonald's in Vietnam before. And I certainly wasn't very happy. And this doesn't mean that the introduction and the conclusion are not important, but the main body paragraph is the most important part. This is where you'll make your detailed argument. This is where you will prove your point. So before I was an English teacher, I used to be a lawyer, and what we would do is we would go to court and we would argue. And an argument, a legal argument, is not like an argument where two people are shouting at each other. It's two people, two lawyers, trying to prove their case, trying to prove their point. So think of your main body paragraphs is where you will do this. It's where you will explain why your points are valid and support those points with examples to help you prove what you are trying to write about or what you're trying to say in your essay. So this is where you set out your main points and develop them fully. All right. One of the hallmarks, or one of the ways that the examiners will know if you know what you're doing, or whether you should get one of the high marks, one of the 7s, the 8s, and the 9s, is whether you fully developed your points. So you haven't just listed as many different ideas as you can. What you've done is you've taken relevant, specific ideas and you fully developed these out. So how do you do that? So there are 3 elements of a main body paragraph, not 3 sentences, 3 elements, all right? 3 things that need to be in your main body paragraph. First thing is a topic sentence. The second thing is an explanation, and a third thing is an example. Every single main body paragraph you should write should have a topic sentence, should have an explanation, and should have an example. If you do that, you're going to write a much better main body paragraph than somebody who, like many of you, what you do when your main body paragraphs is you include like 3 different ideas, and no explanations, no examples, no topic sentences, and it's just like, I call it a shopping list main body paragraph. It's just a list of ideas. It's not actually a real paragraph. So now let's look at each of these elements, because once you understand how to write each of these elements, then you can put them together in a main body paragraph. So, topic sentence. This tells the reader what the paragraph is about. So, very much like your introduction, in your introduction, an introduction does, why do we write an introduction? To help the reader. Why do we write a conclusion? To help the reader. Why do we write a topic sentence? To help the reader. Why are we helping the reader so much? Because the main purpose of writing, think of the main purpose of writing. Is the main purpose of writing to show how many big words you know? Is the main purpose of writing to show how many different grammar structures and tenses you know? Or is the main purpose of writing to clearly communicate with the reader? The more that you help the reader, the more that you clearly communicate with the reader, your better your writing becomes. Once you start to realize that, then you become a better writer. It's essential for task response. Task response is basically, did you answer the question? Task response is 25% of your total mark. Did you answer the question? A topic sentence helps you make it very clear to the examiner, I've understood the question and here is my answer. Here is how I'm answering the question. But it's also important for coherence and cohesion. So coherence and cohesion, another 25% of your total mark. Coherence, is it clear and easy to understand? Topic sentences make your main body paragraphs clear and easy to understand. Topic sentences should be short and simple. They do not need to be long, complex sentences. Just short and simple. Just this is what the paragraph is about. Many people worry about repetition here. This is a huge problem. A huge problem is that I don't know where this came from, and it's particularly prevalent in certain countries. I'm not going to name the countries because I don't want you to think that I'm picking on certain countries, but in certain countries, for some reason, it's a very, very popular idea amongst IELTS teachers, or so-called IELTS teachers, that repetition, you cannot repeat anything. So that means that you cannot repeat anything that is in your introduction in your main body paragraph. And you can't repeat anything that's in your introduction or your main body paragraph in your conclusion. Think about that for a minute. If you couldn't do that, then your introduction, your main body paragraph, and your conclusion would be 3 completely different things about 3 completely different topics, ideas, whatever. That would be a completely incoherent answer that lacked any sort of cohesion, and would mean that you get yourself in all sorts of trouble. Where does this come from? This comes from people teaching IELTS that don't really know what they're doing. They haven't put the time in to understand their craft. They haven't put the time in to understand what this is really about. And what they do is they see that you should avoid repetition in the IELTS essay. You lose marks for repeating words or phrases too many times, but not ideas. Ideas should be consistent throughout your whole essay. So the ideas in your introduction should be consistent with the ideas in your main body paragraphs, should be consistent with the ideas in your conclusion. If you do not believe me, go and look at a real academic journal. So an academic journal, go into, you can Google this on, and find it in any university, or go into any university library and look at quality academic journals produced by very high level academics. Look at the introduction, look at the main body paragraphs, and look at the conclusion, and you'll see that the introduction says, this is what we're going to talk about. These are the ideas that we're going to talk about. And then they develop those same ideas in the main body. And then what they do is they summarize those same ideas in the conclusion. If you want to listen to your local IELTS teacher who is pretending to know what they um, that they're pretending to know what they're doing for a living. You want to believe them rather than me. Every single examiner who works on my team, every high quality IELTS teacher I've ever spoken to. If you still believe that, stop the video and go back to your local IELTS teacher. If you want to get the scores that you need, keep watching. So how are you going to vary your language? So you shouldn't be using the same words and phrases over and over and over and over again, but you have to use the same ideas. And how you do that is you paraphrase again. Now, when I tell students this, they say, "Oh, but I can't paraphrase. I don't know how to paraphrase. I don't know how to vary my language." To get a 7 or above, which is what most of you want, you have to be able to paraphrase multiple times throughout the essay. Basically, if you're saying, "I can't do that," you're saying, "I'm not ready to get a 7 yet." That's basically what you're saying, because that is what is required. So, topic sentence. Let's look at my topic sentence. So, this in purple, this is the question in blue. In purple, this is what I wrote in my introduction. So all I do is just take this and then paraphrase it, say it in different words, so that it means the same thing, and this is going to become my topic sentence. So this is my topic sentence in red. People rely on machines because of the latest developments in machine learning. Okay, so what I've done is I've just taken this and I put it into my own words. Again, you're going to have to do this. If you want a 7 or above, you have to learn how to paraphrase. You have to have a wide vocabulary. You have to. Your grammar needs to be good enough. Does that mean that you'll never get there? No. I've helped, thousands of students get the scores that they need, but you need to change your mindset from "I just need to memorize lots of words and phrases and insert them into my essay" to "Okay, I actually need to learn how to write properly. I actually need to learn how to use grammar and vocabulary properly." And when you change your mindset, then it becomes your progression. You will progress very, very quickly and get the scores that you need. So now we're going to look at explanations. So explanations are very, very important, and I'd say that out of all the elements in your essay, there's none that are unimportant. I don't want you to assume that some things are not important, but explanations, I would say, are the most important thing, because only good students can clearly explain what they mean. It's a skill that is very hard to acquire, and you probably are not even good at this in your native language. And it's not saying, I'm not criticizing you in any way, but in general, people are not very good at taking ideas that are in their head and clearly explaining them on paper. It's something that is quite difficult to do because it's something that many of you just never practice using. But it's something that is quite easy to learn, and we're going to talk about this briefly here. So, never assume that the reader knows what your topic sentence means, or that they know how it answers the question. So, bad communication, most bad communication, and this happens. I do this sometimes when I'm talking to my team. My team does this sometimes when they're communicating with me. And the reason why they might send me an email or a message and it's not very clear is they assume that I know what is in their head. They assume that I know exactly what they are thinking, and so they don't explain fully what the problem is or what they need help with or what the context of the message. The reader can't ask you any follow-up questions, so you must explain everything. So think about the difference between speaking to someone and writing to someone. And I don't mean writing on WhatsApp or, sending text messages or even emails. Think about writing a book, or think about writing a academic journal. Think about writing an IELTS essay. The person reading that cannot ask you any follow-up questions. So the skill that you need to learn is to anticipate what they might be thinking and what they might need you to explain, and explaining that to them. Pretend you're explaining it to someone who knows nothing about the topic. A very common error that I see is students say to me, "Oh, well, the examiner knows about this," or "the examiner knows everything," or "the examiner is really intelligent." Okay, so you cannot assume that. That will lead to very poor communication because you always will assume that the person knows what you're talking about. Explanations help you communicate clearly, and you need to um, explain it in a way that you assume that the person knows nothing about what you're talking about. One really good way of writing explanations is what my old English teacher, or my old science teacher as well, when we would be writing in school, my old English teacher and my old science teacher, he would walk around the classroom and he would look over your shoulder and they would say, "So what? So what?" So they would look at the sentence that you were writing and they would say, "So what? What does that mean? Give me more." In other words, they were saying, develop it, explain it. What does that actually mean? So a number of the successful students that I've had, when we do success stories with our students and we post them online, we post the videos online, a lot of them will say that when they were doing the test, they were imagining me saying, "So what? So what? Develop your answer, explain what you mean." And that seems to really work. Another way of thinking about explanations is, how would you explain this to someone who knows nothing about the topic? So imagine you were explaining this to a 10-year-old boy. A 10-year-old boy who knows nothing about this. How would you explain that to them? Another way is, how would you say, or what would you say to an alien from a different planet? Somebody who knows nothing about our planet, imagine aliens come down. How would you explain this thing to them? And that will help you develop your answer and fully explain what you mean. So this is my topic sentence. People rely on machines because of the latest developments in machine learning. Now, if I just write this, it's not very good because I'm not explaining what it means, how it answers the question. So if someone was reading this, what questions would they be asking themselves? Or let's imagine that I am speaking to someone in a normal one-on-one conversation and I say this, what would they be thinking, or what follow-up questions would they be asking me? Well, they'd probably say, what is machine learning? What developments? How have those developments allowed this to happen? Why? What's the result? What are the consequences? So you're not going to be writing about what is machine learning and then write about what is the developments and then write about this and then why and then result, and that's not how you're going to do it. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be preempting what the person reading this might be asking themselves or might be asking you if they were to be able to speak to you. And these are not, who, what, why, where, how. When I say that to some students, what they do is they write, one sentence about who, then one sentence about what, and then one sentence. No, these are just to give you ideas so that you can think about how you would clearly explain this, and then you can write your explanations. So this is my explanation. So this is my topic sentence at the top here, and then this is my explanation. This is because big data and the fact that we are all connected via the internet means that algorithms can learn basic tasks. As a result, software does not need to be programmed but can learn from millions of other devices around the world, for example. And we're going to look at the example in a moment. But hopefully what you've been able to see here is what I've done is take this sentence and fully develop it, answer all those questions that somebody might ask me about it, and develop it in a way that it clearly helps to answer the question. It helps me to prove my point. And then once you've done that, then you can move on to the example. So examples. The examiners want you to demonstrate that you know how to use examples. The examiners don't want you to demonstrate that you have an unbelievable memory and you can memorize lots and lots and lots of different news stories and facts and figures and stuff like that. All they want you to do is to demonstrate that you know how to use an example. Why? Because that's a very useful skill to have. Imagine you are a doctor or a nurse or an engineer or a lawyer and you move to a new job in London, or Toronto or New York City, and part of your job will be writing to someone or speaking to someone, you should be able to use basic examples to help you prove your point, to help you prove what you are saying. It's a very, very basic skill to have. And if you're not able to do that, then you really, really are going to struggle in the workplace. And you're definitely going to struggle if you're a university student, because you're going to have to do this all the time when you're writing essays and things. The examples must support or prove your main point. So the example must be directly linked to your main point. The purpose of an example is to prove your main point. So what you do is you look at your main point and think, how can I use an example to prove this? Think about when you're arguing with someone and you use an example to help win the argument. And you probably do this all the time. Imagine you're fighting with your siblings or your husband or your wife. Like, let's say, for example, my wife says to me, like, you left the ice cream out last night and it melted all over the place. I'd say, well, so what? So then she would explain to me why that's a problem. Well, you just wasted lots of money and there's ice cream all over the floor and I have to clean it up and I don't have time to do that and it's not nice to have, ice cream all over the floor. And then I would say, really? Did that happen? And she, yeah, like you did that last night. I had to clean it up this morning. Look at the floor. That's her example. She's proven her point. That's a very simplistic example of like a husband and wife having an argument. But you can probably think of hundreds of debates or arguments that you've had with people in the past, and using an example is very, very, very strong. Because it blows people out of the water. They can't argue back if you have a concrete example that proves your point. So it's really, really important you know how to do this, and it's very useful for arguing with people. Someone like me who constantly posts stuff online, 5% of the comments will always be people arguing with me, and all I have to do is just go, well, here's an example that proves my point. Thank you, which is very, very useful. Okay, so examples do not need, in the context of the IELTS test, the IELTS writing test, examples do not need to be true, but they must make sense. So you're not expected to have like an encyclopedic knowledge of, data and research and all of these different things that you need to do. It's not like that. And you don't, it's not a lie detector test. It's not a truth test. You can make things up to fit in and help you prove your points, but they must make sense. They must be believable. You can't just make stuff up, out of thin air and it sounds totally implausible. So two ways that you can easily create examples. So there are hundreds of, not hundreds actually, there are, 10 or 20 different ways that I teach people how to write examples on my course. But let's just show you two very, very simple ones that you could use in your writing. So the first one is, recent research concluded that, plus what you're trying to prove. Or, a recent study found that, plus what you're trying to prove. Now, for your purposes, don't worry about percentages and data and all of those different things. Just put, a recent research concluded that, plus what you're trying to do. Or, a recent study found that, plus what you're trying to do, what you're trying to prove. So let's look at that, what those would look like. You can also use newspapers, magazine stories, a clip you saw on YouTube, or a news story or something like that. Personal experiences, personal examples are okay, but you need to be very, very careful. I would avoid personal examples, personal circumstances. I'm not going to get into why or why not, because it just takes too much time to explain. They're okay, but I would generally not use them. Again, think about explaining it to somebody who knows nothing. What would you use to help illustrate this to an alien from a different planet? So before we get into look at the full main body paragraphs, and I'm going to show you full examples and all of those different things, many of you might be a little bit overwhelmed at the moment. Do not worry. If this is not making complete sense right now, many of you have a mindset where you want to just get some quick tips, some shortcuts, and understand things immediately and then get the score you need. That's not going to happen. It will take further implementation, further practice for you to fully understand and be able to do these things. Like imagine wanting to learn how to drive a car in one day, or wanting to learn how to ride a bike in 1 hour. You can learn how to ride a bike pretty quickly. You can learn how to drive a car pretty quickly, but not in an unreasonable amount of time. You need further implementation, you need further practice, you need further feedback. This is just the first stage of your preparation. Don't worry if this is, you're going like, how am I going to do this? This seems very, very complicated. You will get it. You do not worry about this. So like, for example, in my VIP group, we do a whole module on examples. Plus we look at each of the different 5 essay types individually for all of these different things. And we also have like Facebook Live videos on examples in the VIP Facebook group. We constantly give people work to do. They do them, they practice them, we give them feedback on them, and that's how they learn and that's how they get it. So if you're not fully understanding all of this, or you get your feedback later on tomorrow, and you're not perfect yet, you don't need to be perfect. It is a process and you will get there eventually. So let's look at our paragraph. So this is because big data and the fact that we are all connected via the internet means that algorithms can learn basic tasks. So this is our explanation. I haven't put the topic sentence in here. As a result, software does not need to be programmed, but can learn from millions of other devices around the world. So the bit in purple, that is my explanation. All right, and then here is my example. For example, Tesla cars now come with autopilot, which drives the car itself and shares the data with all other Tesla vehicles. So this is a perfect example because it's a real car that actually drives itself. All right, so if you know of an example that perfectly supports your main idea, then that's great. Use that. I really love Tesla cars. I read about them quite a bit. But you don't need to use a Tesla car as an example. It fits perfectly here, but there are 100 different other examples that you could use. So this is the full paragraph. So you can pause the video and you can have a read of this, but let's just talk about it briefly for a moment. We have the topic sentence in the first sentence here. What does the topic sentence do? It says, hello Mr. Reader, hello Mrs. Reader, whoever's reading, this is what I'm going to talk about. Then the next 2 sentences, and it doesn't have to be 2 sentences, your explanations could be 1 sentence, 3 sentences, 4 sentences. Do not worry about number of sentences really, or number of words really. Focus on the actual quality of your work rather than how short or how long it is. What this does is it explains fully what I think about my main point, how it answers the question and approves my main point. And then the example helps support my main point. So think about this as an argument. If I was to make this argument, it's very, very strong. It's very clear. It's easy to understand. The reader knows exactly what I'm talking about. Paragraph 2. Is it a positive or negative development? So this is the second question. So this is going to be our second main body paragraph. Main idea, because it reduces workload. Explanation, so this would be my plan. Explanation, AI does boring, repetitive tasks, freeing up time to do other things. Examples, Google Home, Amazon Alexa. I don't know whether you've heard of those before. Pretty big in the UK and the US. They're basically smart devices. They're devices that you have in your home and you can talk to them, and they use AI to answer questions and do tasks for you in the home. Uber uses AI within its app. Netflix uses AI to learn your viewing preferences, and many thousands of other examples. Am I going to use all these examples in my essay? No. This is to show you what I would write if I were planning this out. I would quickly just jot down some examples. I would write very brief explanations. My main idea would be very, very clear. And then what I do, how easy is it going to be to write a main body paragraph when you have thought clearly about this, you've got it all planned out, and don't worry about time, guys. This will save you time. If I was to just start writing a main body paragraph, it could take me, let's say if I'm an average student, it could take me, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, let's say 15 minutes to write a main body paragraph. But if I spend 2 minutes or 1 minute writing all this out, it reduces that time from 15 minutes to 5 to 6, 7 minutes, something like that. So putting in the effort to plan things out really does make a huge difference when you're starting to write your main body paragraphs. So let's have a look at this. Automation should be welcomed because it frees people from the drudgery of everyday duties. So this is my topic sentence. So it's saying it's a good thing because it means we do less work. Alright, that's basically what it's saying. So then I have to explain this point. Our day-to-day lives are dominated by menial, repetitive chores that take up much of our time. Automating these is possible, and technological solutions allow us to focus on more meaningful activities. Then I need to explain this. For example, there is now a robot that both cuts grass and hoovers carpets, and the manufacturers estimate that this will save the average person 3 weeks per year. Okay, so what I've done is I've said it saves you time. Here's how it saves you time. Here's an example of it saving you time. And then what I've done is I put a little further explanation onto the end here, just to show you that what a lot of students do is they think that there's only one way. And when I teach them how to do anything, they're like, okay, I'll stick exactly to that. Or some other students say, well, can we write 3 explanation sentences? Can we write one at the ends? Can we write, like, you can pretty much do what you want, guys. And this is to show you that if you wanted to add a little bit of explanation at the end to really solidify it, you can do that also. Owners are free to choose what to do with these extra hours instead of being forced to carry out routine work. So it's just a further explanation. It's not a conclusion statement or anything like that. It's just a further explanation. Don't overcomplicate this and be like, do I have to do that? Do I not have to do that? As long as you have the 3 essential elements, the topic sentence, which always be first because it's a topic sentence, then you have your explanations, then you have your examples. That is going to help you write a clear main body paragraph that will help you prove your point, help you demonstrate that you know what you're doing. Okay, so now you're going to do the same thing for this question. So you're going to look at the question below and follow the steps outlined in this lesson to write a main body paragraph. So take a screenshot of this or write it down, whatever you have to do, and pause the video and you can have a look at this. You already have your introduction. So what I would suggest you do is, if you're very happy with your introduction, use that. If I highlighted some things in the feedback yesterday, that means that you need to redo your introduction. Redo your introduction and then use your introduction as kind of a mini plan that will help you write the rest of your essay. Some advice, guys. Do not do this under exam conditions. Do not do this under exam conditions. You shouldn't go at 100 miles an hour when you're learning something new. Like, one of the silliest things that some students do with us is they'll look at one of our lessons, they'll immediately take what they've learned, immediately do a question under exam conditions, and then say, oh, that didn't work, I didn't learn anything. It's like, of course you didn't learn anything. You just went from 0 to 100 miles an hour. Imagine learning how to drive, and your very first lesson, they take you out onto a motorway or a freeway, and you drive at 150 miles an hour. That's not going to happen. When you're learning something new, so there's a lot of new information today. There's a lot of new things that you're going to be learning. When you're learning something new, start very, very slowly and build up to exam speed. Spend time actually thinking about what you've learned and what you are writing, because your brain is still processing all of this information. It's not like, that movie The Matrix, where they just stick a plug into your head and you immediately know how to do things. You do things by learning how to do them, thinking about what you've learned, actually doing them, make mistakes, get feedback, and improve in that way. I wish I could just, download stuff into your brain and be able to get the scores that you need. You will get the scores that you need, but you have to follow a process. So the rules. Only post tasks below this video. Please do not email me your samples. Please do not email me and say, I'm special. I don't want to wait like everybody else. Can you give me individual feedback? So the best thing to do, guys, is to submit under the video, and then I'll look at everybody's work and I will do the feedback session tomorrow at 1 p.m. and you'll be able to look at that, apply what you learn in the feedback session to your own main body paragraphs, learn from that, and that is the best way that you're going to learn. Thank you very much, guys. If you need anything, Chris at IELTSadvantage.com. You can get us on Facebook, you can get us on YouTube, you can get us on Instagram. Feel free to go and subscribe to all of those places if you've enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Thanks very much, guys. Bye bye.